Hello and welcome back. Thank you for coming. It has been a while since I last filmed a video, and I'm sure you've all been eagerly waiting. The comments have been endless. And yeah, it's, as you can see, I'm no longer at uni. I'm back at home in Brighton. So yeah, that really shows how long it's been, because I finished uni nearly a month ago. So I think the last video I shot was probably 6 weeks ago. So yes, we're now on the big episode 10, the big 1-0. We're in double digits now. I'm super chuffed. And I've been wanting to do a big video about my year at uni, my first year at uni, what I thought about it, and like a review on that. That isn't this episode, because that is going to be a lot more effort than a normal episode, and I want to give all my eager fans something to tide them over in the meantime. So the big episode 10 is going to be a filler episode. It's what you all wanted, I'm sure. So yeah, instead I'm going to be talking about baking. It's a big hobby of mine. If you know me, then you already know that. Yeah, just how I got into it, what I like about it, what are my favourite things to bake, what I don't like about it. So yeah, I'm just going to get started on that. So yeah, how I got into baking. So in 2016, October 2016, I joined this was at the start of when I decided to take a year out between college and uni. I decided to join a church small group where we would watch the Great British Bake Off, a very popular TV show over here in the UK, and we'd watch Great British Bake Off, and we would bring things we've baked to share, and then once the show ended we would kind of do our own bake off competitions where we'd all bake the same thing and see who was the best. And that was kind of like I hadn't really baked at all before then, like maybe the odd birthday cake where it was my mum doing all the work and I would just help and lick the spoon. But yeah, no, this is the first time I properly baked ever, I think. And the first thing I ever made was pies, these mini apple pies. Because one of the weeks of Bake Off was pastry week and it was my turn to bring something along, and I thought, why not go balls to wall, fairly difficult first thing to bake, and that was sweet short crust pastry and these mini tart pie things. And they were okay. They're a bit on the small side, I could get much filling in them, but I think for a first attempt at anything that was pretty good. So yeah, from that point onwards I just kept pretty much baking something nearly every week that winter. And then in the following year in 2017, in March, I went to France. It's quite a good opportunity. I got to go on this catering course, which wasn't really specific baking at all. In fact, it mostly wasn't. But it was just great to go on this catering course, and part of it was in Normandy, and just learning how to cook and learning some professional chef techniques. And that did involve baking some desserts, it was a really good fun, great trip. So yeah, that was a great spring. And yeah, so I've kind of just been baking ever since. So yeah, October this year will be 2 years since I started this hobby. So yeah, some of the favourite things I like to bake are cookies. I am a self-proclaimed cookie master. I sound cocky, but pretty much everyone who's told me that, anyone who's had my cookies have never had anything bad to say about them. They are great. I'm amazing. I'm perfect at cookies. So yeah, they're so easy to do. They don't take very much time at all. And yeah, I've just been baking them. I bake cookies at least twice a month since I've started baking, and yeah, pretty much. And so I've gotten very good at making cookies. Brownies are also quite easy to do. They take a bit more time, They're a bit more costly in terms of ingredients, but they're not too difficult either, and brownies also always go down very well. My favourite cake to make is spice cake. It's a bit different. You make it with, you have cream cheese frosting. It's your typical cake. It's not your chocolate or Victoria sponge. Victoria sponge is just boring. Not a fan of Victoria sponge. Yeah, they're just boring. But no, I love baking a spice cake. I do love a good spice cake. And yeah, I also like to try and hone my pastry skills by making other mini pies or big pies. And I have tried, what's it called? Puff pastry. And I've made pâte au chocolat before, which were okay. Not the best, but they were okay. So yeah, moving on to what I like about baking. It's something where I could just zone out. I don't really have to think at all. You're just following a recipe. It's dead simple. So yeah, you don't really have to think much. It kind of just helps you to blank out and mentally reset. And yeah, people are always happy to see you if you bake something. It's kind of how I'm made some of my friends at uni, to be honest. They're just like, you're someone as socially inept as me, I needed me bringing baked things along, just help me get that first impression spot on. Everyone loves you if you bought something that's baked, and to be honest, I love sharing what I've made. I've gotta say, I'm pretty certain I know people who have had more of my baked goods than I have had myself. So people have eaten more of what I've baked than I've eaten myself. So yeah, it's great. It's a good thing to share. Everyone's always happy to see you, and everyone's always happy. It cheers people up when you bake. Yeah. However, there are some dislikes to baking I have found over the couple years. One of the top ones is it's expensive. You're always spending money when you bake. You can definitely make a profit from it, but I'm not a baker. Like, I don't run a bakery. But yeah, it's costly and it can be time consuming, especially on some of the longer projects, like a big cake. You want to decorate it as well, or stuff like, or pastry. Pastry takes a good 3 hours if you're making something with pastry. Yeah, so it can take up, there's been many times where it's taken up the whole afternoon or day, depending on what I've been making. It can be frustrating because it's quite hard to get it perfect. Like, there's been several times where I've been disappointed with what I've made, and like, it's taken me all day and I'm just like, oh, this is ruined because I forgot to put it in the oven. I didn't put it in the oven long enough, but I thought it was fine, and it's just been crap. And yeah, there are times where it can be quite easy to mess up, and you just like, all your efforts just gone. But that doesn't happen very often, I will say that. Also, people want to, this has happened quite a lot, well, because people know me as a guy who likes to bake, they think, oh great, Dan will bake for us whenever. Well, let's put on an event with food and make sure Dan brings the dessert and expect him to bake something. Yes, I will spend, yes, it's okay for someone to have gone to Tesco's and bought something in 5 minutes, but because I'm a baker, I should have spent money and time, like 3 hours possibly, making a dessert when someone else could just bought fizzy drink from Tesco's. It can be annoying because people can be expectant. I don't think they mean it I know they don't mean it in a malicious way, it's just people forget or don't really realise how much effort goes into it sometimes. Yeah, it's not like I'm a baker so I can just magic up something in 5 minutes. It's definitely not the case, and everyone who likes baking will tell you the same. The final thing I'm going to end on is Bake of the Week. Just bring this little segment back. Last Friday I made macaroons, which were okay for a first attempt. I mean, it took ages, like it took me 4 hours, because, well, it's the first time I was doing it. I made a lot of meringue mix, which was, yeah, a lot more than I thought I would need. But the main problem was it was getting it hard for it to set. The hot weather this time of year is quite hard to bake because the hot weather just makes things a lot harder. It will cause your mixture to melt. A lot of the time when baking, before you put it in the oven, you need everything to be quite cold, so things don't start melting before you've already made it. So yeah, and I mean, for something that takes so long to do, the flavour of a macaroon, and I think even when it's properly made and really good, macaroons, there's so much effort for something that is nowhere near as good as a cookie. They're just something fancy and pretty to look at, and people look at them in the shop windows. People want to take Instagrams of them or whatever, but honestly, in my opinion, they don't beat a cookie or a brownie, and they're just so much easier to make. This pretty much wraps up the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'm hoping the next time I see you will be sooner than 6 weeks. If not, see you at the end of the summer. Have a great summer as well. I hope you're already enjoying yourselves, and I will see you very soon.
Brush me off like the dirt on Jay-Z's shoulder, so I fall to the ground, collect myself, and get ready to take over your heart, or at least your spare time. And I love the thought of being with you, or maybe it's the thought of not being so alone. Hey, the second one's way sadder than the first one, but